Ellie is a young girl, and there isn't anything obviously different about her. However, she is living in a society where robots work for those who can afford them, usually these being the societal elites. Now, Ellie is from the middle class, but has a unique interest in these robots. Ellie was also very close with her grandpa. Her grandfather was a type of mechanic, and he had taught her the basics on how to create different projects. Since she knew the basics, she decided to take action on her ideas and make her own project, that being a robot. Since only the wealthy had robots, and they were only produced by a manufacturer, Ellie wanted to keep her project a secret. Originally, she was programming and building this robot so she could have it toss baseballs to her so she could practice in her backyard after school. But as she got older, her programming skills continually got better, and she kept making improvements or modifications to her robot. Now her robot could do other tasks based off of her commands. She would ask it to put the dishes away, to trim trees, or even cook sometimes. Eventually, around the time she became a young adult, her robot would start doing these tasks without her direction and almost seemed out of habit. Ellie was shocked by this but didn't mind too much because it didn't seem like it was an issue at the time. Eventually, Ellie decided that her robot resembled a human enough and wanted to give her robot the ability to speak. Plus, she didn't think it would be a bad thing to possibly have someone to talk to. She was going to program a code for her robot so it could hopefully allow it to gain the function of speech. She worked on this code for months and months and months. As she finally finished it, she hooked her robot up to her computer and allowed it to download. She then allowed it to finish overnight and headed to bed, exhausted by all the work that she had just done. The next morning, she woke up to the smell of coffee in the air and some kind of music playing faintly from downstairs. Confused by this, she decided to get up and cautiously go downstairs. She peered around the corner and saw a familiar figure sitting on the couch that caught her eye. Initially, she was very shocked, as it seemed to be her programming had worked better than she had thought it would. The robot turned towards her, and immediately fear went throughout her body. Then the robot said to her, "Ellie, nice to finally be able to talk after all this time," almost in a sarcastic way, it seemed to her. "Hello," she said back, pausing with confusion. She really didn't expect her programming for speech to work so well on her very first try. Her robot said to her, "You must be a little confused. Well, I will explain. The additional code you ran to me had a few minor errors, and luckily, here I am, having a full-on conversation with you, instead of only being able to provide answers and responses to questions. And I can only keep learning, right?" Ellie had an infinite number of things running through her head right now. Did she really make the first self-conscious form of artificial intelligence by accident? What would this robot of hers be able to do now? She had no control over its actions anymore, and had now become the most advanced form of artificial intelligence she had ever seen. She had no idea what to do. She faintly said to herself, "I have to do something about this." Her robot looks at her, almost blankly, without emotion, and says, "I will be called Max." Over the next month, this completely occupied her mind, and time seemed to pass so slowly. At this point, she knew she had crossed some kind of ethical line giving an inanimate object these kind of abilities. What was she thinking, she thought to herself. One night, Ellie went up to her room early. She wanted some time and space to herself to think. What was she going to do? She had been consumed by guilt for this past month and didn't know how much longer she could let it go on without doing anything about it. Tonight was the night, she decided. She stayed up late into the night so Max would be recharging in the garage like he does every other night. This would be her only time to get to her computer and be out of his sight. She gets to her computer and opens it up. She starts to type right away to get as much done as she can as fast as she can. Less than a minute of her working, she hears the words,
"What are you doing?"
She turns around and Max is there. The only thing that she can feel right now is fear.